Our moment to reset, reimagine, realize a stronger future for Ghana's agribusiness sector. I thank you very much, and may God kindly bless our efforts.
Wow. So when the finance minister read the budget, the media started calling him Uncle Atu. So you two will call you Auntie Lizzie. So can we put hands together for Auntie Lizzie? Wonderful. We've also been joined by the Minister for Health and MP for Joabuso, the Honorable Kwabena Minta Kando. Thank you for being here. He's a farmer, by the way. So for those of you who are wondering why he's here for 2 reasons. He's a farmer, and also he's very close to the Deputy Minister for Trade. Their constituencies are neighbors. So there's Joabuso and Modi. So I don't know whether you're here because of your cousin or whether you're here because of your rice farm, but you're welcome nonetheless. Let's put our hands together for him. I'd like to also acknowledge our good friend in the media and Director of Presidential Initiatives in Agric and Agribusiness, Peter Buama Otokuno. Let's welcome him. Mr. Otokuno, good to see you. So because of the initial austerity, a lot of government programs need sponsorship. So this program is possible not just because of the vision of the ministry, but also because some of our partners have supported us. So I'd like to mention the names of the partners. We'll give them one round of applause. So in no particular order, we have FAGE, which is the Federation of Association of Ghanaian Exporters. We have AGRA. We have Development Bank Ghana, known as DBG. We have the MasterCard Foundation. We have PricewaterhouseCoopers, known as PwC. And then our organizing sponsor is the Agri Impact Group. Let's put hands together for all of them. I also like to specially acknowledge the CEO of Agri Impact Group, Mr. Daniel Fahini Akwe, whose relentless efforts have brought all of us together. Let's welcome him with a round of applause. Thank you, sir. We will observe a quick video from the country director of IFC and another from an agribusiness industrialist as we set the scene for the framing speech and His Excellency's speech. So please enjoy.
As you may be aware, IFC's mission is improving people's lives through investments and support to the private sector in countries around the world. In our experience, one of the most important sectors in any country, here in Ghana, Vietnam, Brazil, is agriculture and support for agriculture, bringing more and better jobs for the people in these countries and bringing more and better economic productivity and economic self-sufficiency to these countries. We're delighted to have this agribusiness formed and an opportunity to discuss policies that can improve the enabling environment for the private sector, both local as well as international, attracting international best practice investment, advisory, and helping local entrepreneurs and local farmers better access markets. IFC has been a keen supporter of agribusiness over the years, whether it's support for the Tree Crop Authority, support for the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Agribusiness, support for the Fisheries Ministry. We're keen on supporting this. As well, we've been actually putting our money where our mouth is, quite frankly. Over the past year, we enacted an $80 million facility to help improve supply chain finance in the cocoa sector. We're also in early stage discussions with a number of what we call transformative transactions to help bring greater productivity, greater food self-sufficiency here in Ghana in both foodstuffs, food commodities, as well as protein. I think what's most important is to have key leadership of the government, the Minister of Trade, Industry and Agribusiness, as well as key business stakeholders, both domestic and international, as well as financial sector players. The other aspect that's particularly important for agriculture, as you know, is infrastructure, supply chain, port, power, transport. All these components come together to make the sector competitive. That's why I think this discussion is particularly relevant right now. As we look at the global landscape in agriculture, we see a unique opportunity for Ghana today that didn't necessarily exist 10, 15, 20 years ago. We see a growing competitiveness here in Ghana. Ghana is endowed with natural advantages in agriculture: land, sun, hard-working labor force, skilled labor force, access to finance. And this is an opportune moment to take advantage of that, to help onshore more of the agricultural supply chain, onshore more of the agricultural production, onshore more of the agricultural value added to improve the economy and create more and better jobs here in Ghana.
as a player in the agribusiness space, I think one of the knocks the current government got it right is bringing agribusiness to the front burner. Why don't we have game-changing players in the industry? Financing. If you go and borrow at 30% and you are doing a capex, you are building a factory, by the third year, that money has almost doubled. But if you are doing capex, sometimes operationalization of whatever you are doing could even go 2-3 years. So cost of financing, utilities, the support system is quite lacking. Government everywhere is the biggest buyer. How do we craft some marketing policies where agribusinesses will be dovetailed into government off-taking? This will first enable us to begin to nurture agribusiness.
Thank you very much. We're still live here at the Kempinski Hotel. If you're watching us on YouTube or on Channel 1 television, this is the National Agribusiness Dialogue under the auspices of the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Agribusiness. And if you're happy to be here, put your hands together for yourselves. Now, this program is in 3 parts. So this is the first part, which is the speeches to set the scene. There will be 5 breakout sessions after this preliminary session involving panel discussions and recommendations for the policy. And those thematic areas are policy, regulation, standards, and institutional coordination, youth, women, innovation, tech and digital transformation, agric finance and investment, agro-industrialization, value chain development and market access, and environmental sustainability and climate resilience. When these panels and thematic breakouts are done, we'll reconvene in the plenary to harvest lessons to chart a way forward. I'd like to acknowledge the Parliamentary Select Committee on Trade, Industry and Tourism, led by their chair, MP for Central Tong, Alexander Roosevelt Hotoji, and his team. Please rise, let's acknowledge you. Thank you, MPs, for being here. If we bring any law, you know what to do because you were part of the discussion. I'd like to now bring up stage the CEO of the Agri Impact Group to set the scene and to put in context the work ahead of us. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Daniel Fahini Akwe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bernard, and good morning to everyone. The beauty of agribusiness is that by the time people are seated for a program like this, they have all touched food. Either it is raw or processed. Even those who are fasting, they sometimes go somewhere and touch a bit of food. That's the beauty of agribusiness. Your Excellency, Mr. President, we are super excited to have you here, leading and charting a path for agribusiness development in Ghana. And we also want to thank you so much for giving us a minister who is so pragmatic and very articulate. The first time the agribusiness industry players met with her, they kept asking, is she an agribusiness expert? And how can a lawyer be so articulate in agribusiness affairs? So we are happy and we want to thank you for giving us such a minister. Today marks a remarkable day where vision, desires, and aspirations meet to reset the course of agribusiness, a sector that holds transformation and a sector that can transform our economy, our people, and our future. At the same time, a sector that is characterized by structural disconnects between primary production and industrial demand. Many agro-processors, particularly in value chains such as maize, soy, rice, tomatoes, cassava, palm oil, poultry, and tree crops, operate significantly below installed capacity due to inconsistent, inadequate, and poor quality raw material supply. For instance, rice mills operate at less than 40% capacity due to insufficient production of paddy rice. And tomato factories remain chronically underutilized, whilst we continue to import several millions of dollars of tomatoes. In the oil palm sector, domestic production is estimated at 300,000 metric tons, whilst industrial demand exceeds 600,000 metric tons. There is no question that agribusiness can transform Ghana's economy. Empirical and, in fact, spiritual evidence even prove that agribusiness will transform our economy. So the real question is not what agribusiness can do, but what we will do to and for agribusiness. We are passing a stage where we'll be making statements like agribusiness can transform our rural economies, agribusiness can create jobs, agribusiness can boost our economy. That one, from today, we are certain. And we are not going to do any more research work on how agri-impacts can impact on our economy. We know it. What we need now is what are we going to do to make it a reality? And that is why we are here this morning. This dialogue will move beyond pilots and pledges. Most of the time, when we want to enter agribusiness, the first thing is let us pilot hawks. We have done so many projects from the time that some of us were not born. Don't you have enough evidence to prove that these are pilots? And why do we still continue to focus on pilots and small things when bigger things are waiting for us? I'm glad that we are resetting, and we will reset. We need to reset, accelerate, and scale. The little that we know, let us scale them. It is better than going back 5 years to a new research and pilot again. By the time we are done with the pilot, industry has moved beyond the results and the findings of the pilot, and we have to pilot again. But we are not pilots. There is no aircraft for us to fly this morning. We are agribusiness entrepreneurs. Why do we need research, Mr. President? In South Africa, whereas primary agriculture contributes 2.9% to their GDP, agro-processing with logistics and trade accounts for 10%. So primary is 2.9, agro-processing is 10%. 3 times more than what primary agriculture contributes to their GDP. In Ghana, it is the reverse. Agriculture contributes 20 to 26%, and agribusiness or agro-processing contributes only 6%. We definitely need to reset. I thought you will add that for me. We will definitely need to reset. Now, we have large-scale agribusiness firms that are struggling. Today, if you want to do a head count of large-scale agro-processing firms that are indigenous in nature, we struggle to even count 20. Why? We will reset. To unlock financing and reverse this trend, we wish to ask the big question: how do we establish an agri-fund? And I say this because we have Get Fund, and I'm happy there is Get Fund. But I keep saying that Get Fund supports infrastructure and build the supply chain of skill, or the supply of skilled labor that we need. Get Fund does wonderful for our educational sector. But remember, it is the supply side of skilled labor. Agribusiness is the demand and the consumption part of skilled labor. So if we put investment in education and we don't put equal investment in agribusiness, we are going to have a situation where there is always oversupply of skilled labor. And that is why we call for establishment of an agri-fund that will also catalyze more investment in the sector. That fund will be a game changer, de-risking investment, unlocking capital, and empowering industry actors to scale with confidence and resilience, and reset our staggering $2 billion post-harvest losses into agribusiness gains. Already our yields are low, our productions are low, but the little that we produce, we lose about $2 billion in post-harvest. Why? So when we have agri-fund, we will reset it and we will reverse it, so that tomorrow we will not come here and say again that our post-harvest loss is $2 billion, but we will rather say that our post-harvest gain into the agribusiness basket is $2 billion. Mr. President, the captains of industry are happy and excited that under your leadership, we have the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry. The position of agribusiness in between trade and industry is for a purpose. And it's a purpose because we must seize the opportunity to address a fundamental issue that confronts us. Again, how do we nurture indigenous agro-processing champions with the ambition of transforming some into unicorns with businesses that have turnovers of billions of dollars? It is possible, not the previous one though. This one, I'm talking about resetting that is possible. But we know that these champions will not emerge by chance. They can never emerge by chance. They must be intentionally built through smart policies, targeted incentives, and strategic partnerships. With a strong export orientation, they can brand Ghana quality, increase access to global and regional markets, and fully integrate our producers into global value chains. Agribusiness may be local in operation, but must be global in our vision. Ladies and gentlemen, consider this. The combined land area of Ghana's 6 northern regions and OT represents approximately 64% of our total land area. Yet, these vast and fertile lands have little or no significant agro-processing facilities. That disparity must be addressed. Where 64% of our land surface, where the bread basket of Ghana is, does not have the agro-processing infrastructure for value addition. And that also accounts for our high post-harvest loss, because logistics and transport infrastructure are not up to the way that we can move the produce from the northern part to the southern part of Ghana. This glaring imbalance underscores why this dialogue will focus not only on policy at the center, but on deliberately establishing agro-industrial hubs and value addition infrastructure that unlocks economic opportunities across every region, especially where land, labor, and potential remain underutilized. Anytime I hear of the Eastern Corridor, I become excited, and I'm praying that one day it will be like a motorway from Tema to Accra, because the amount and the volume of food production in that Eastern Corridor is amazing to transform OT and most of the northern parts of our country. And I'm glad that Mr. President is nodding his head. It means I'm saying something nice. Ladies and gentlemen, SMEs account for 70% of Ghana's GDP. And these 30 to 40% of these SMEs are involved in agribusiness or agri-related activities. Sadly, only 5% of Ghanaian SMEs use Internet of Things in this global world. That has to be reset. The policy dialogue will address how to embed advanced agri-tech innovations from digital platforms to precision farming, climate-smart solutions to data-driven supply chains. Mr. President, let me also take some applause. Last week, the first ever drone innovation and simulation center unit was commissioned at KNUST. And fortunately and graciously, it was named after me. The global drone market for agricultural services is expected to reach $7 billion by 2030. And remote sensing markets for agriculture and agribusiness is expected to reach $6 billion by 2033. What are we doing for our young ones to take advantage and participate in this global market, which to $1 billion? And that is the essence of having a drone innovation and simulation center, where young ones will be trained how to use drones to provide agricultural services, be it small scale or commercial scale farming. The e-learning center of KNUST has completed pilots for us. So we are not going to pilot this anywhere again. We have enough pilots on this. The e-learning center in the last 12 months has trained 1,000 young people under the MasterCard Foundation supported program called HAPPY. And more than 200 of them have been able to establish enterprises using digital tools. So the 1 million coded initiative of Your Excellency is a research agenda that is real. Already the center is there to scale, to accelerate and scale. That is what we want to see. As climate change intensifies and ethical standards around sustainability grows, today's dialogue will also explore environmental and social investment that not only mitigate risk but also position Ghana as a responsible global player. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, we will deliberate about inclusion. The focus of dialogue must not only create jobs, but create dignified pathways for participation, leadership, and prosperity for youth, women, and persons with disability. With agribusiness, our youth should not become job seekers, but enterprise builders. And I repeat, with agribusiness, our youth should not become job seekers, but enterprise builders. We are resetting. Finally, Mr. President, this dialogue is not a talk shop. It is a strategic turning point, and let us align our actions with existing flagship initiatives, the 24-hour plus economy, agriculture for economic transformation agenda, and the almighty Big Push program to position agribusiness as a national transformation engine. Let us transition from we can do it to we will do it. Again, let us transition from we can do it to we will do it. And last week in the media, I read that His Excellency the President has gone to Uti, and he was so emphatic that we will establish tertiary institution for Uti region. And I said, oh wow, hallelujah. I wish I could also add, we will establish tertiary institution and agribusiness. So, Mr. President, when you are establishing, please add agribusiness. On these notes, I will say that when we move from we can to do it, tomorrow we'll come here again and say that we have done it. It is time to reset. It is time to arise. It is time to build. Thank you very much.
Wow. Daniel Fahini Akui. Wow. Charlie, if agribusiness were on the ballot, you would have won the election. Hey, this one first round. Amazing stuff. He is the group CEO of the Agri Impact Group, and we now understand why they are our organizing sponsor. They are not just sponsors, they are the organizing partner. So Mr. Akwe, well done. Let's put hands one more time for him. Wonderful. I'd like to acknowledge the Deputy Minister for Food and Agriculture and MP for Ayawaso West Wogon, Honorable John Dumelu, who has just joined us. Thank you for being here and for supporting agribusiness so excellently. Now, before we hear from His Excellency, two quick announcements. We have an exhibition in the next room of up to 30 or so agribusinesses, and we encourage all our visitors, particularly the President, to pass through the exhibition on his way out, because these are agribusinesses doing fantastic things in various parts of the country, who would be very encouraged if you can visit their stand, pick a thing or two, take a photo. It will blow up their business. So whoever is guiding the President, please know where to guide him on his way out. It's very important to us. Also like to acknowledge the thematic area chairs, because for the record, these are the men who will lead the discussions for the 5. So I'll just mention their names. Dr. Foster Boateng, where are you? Let's acknowledge him. Dr. Boateng is leading the policy, regulation, standards, and institutional coordination thematic area. Where are you, Dr. Boateng? All right, he's at the back. Put your hands together for him. It's very important. The Agri Finance and Investment thematic area is led by Mr. Kwesi Kobo. Mr. Kwesi Kobo, we know him. He's a life of service to Agric. Youth, Innovation, Tech and Digital Transformation, Joseph Boateng. Round of applause for Mr. Boateng, thank you. Agro-industrialization, value chain development and market access, Abraham Safo. Abraham Safo, thank you, sir. Last but not least, environmental sustainability and climate resilience, Richard Anson. Where is he? Thank you, sir. So these are the men who will lead the panels, and there are a whole lot of discussions to happen after the president leaves. Before His Excellency brings us his speech, we'd like to acknowledge Ghana Television, Wezo Television, and Channel 1 Television for bringing us live coverage of this very important dialogue. We want to watch a quick video to set the scene before the president's speech. These are two messages, one from the Mastercard Foundation, who've been supporting us financially, and CSIR, who have provided fantastic technical support. So let's observe those two videos before we hear from our special guest.
We launched the Young Africa Work Strategy. We are a Canadian organization. We launched the Young Africa Work Strategy in 2018 with a focus of youth employment in Africa. Our goal is to enable 30 million young people in dignified and fulfilling work by 2030, 70% of them being young women. Specifically in Ghana, our mission, our strategy is focusing on 3 million young people in Ghana in dignified and fulfilling work, 2.1 million being young women. And so that's the focus that we have in Ghana, and its inclusion is really aligned with our mission. The Mastercard Foundation, we have two areas, our objectives. One is to promote education, and the other is around alleviating poverty through financial inclusion. So this really fits quite squarely in the work that we do. Our focus in Ghana over the last, since we started our work in 2019, has been agriculture. So it's really our focus area. So this fully aligned with our focus for Ghana. And today we have about 20 partners, a bit more in Ghana, and they range from academics, where we have a partnership we call the NCABOM Collaborative, which brings in together 6 universities in Ghana. It's initiatives like the one that we have, Bridging Agriculture, brings aboard 6 banks that are lending at single digits, or ABSA lending at 10%. And so it's a range of programs that go from training to enabling access to finance, to also aligning with government. And I think it's so important to laud again what the Bank of Ghana has done and put inclusion at the center. So our ability to bring all those actors and remembering to put the young people at the core, at the center of our initiative is going to be critical, and that we are committed to continue doing in Ghana and enable 3 million young people in dignified and fulfilling work by 2030.
The Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, or CSIR, we are comprised of 13 research institutes, and 8 or 9 of them focus on agriculture. So as far as agribusiness development in Ghana is concerned, we play a very pivotal role. We've been doing that for over 60 years. We have, on our own, we've moved to the 24-hour economy secretariat. We have met with them. We recently wrote to the Minister of Trade and AgriBusiness. In fact, there's a letter somewhere on my table where the minister has invited CSIR to come over for discussion as to how we can bring our expertise to bear, not just in crop production, but also in aquaculture production and also animal husbandry. We have one whole institute at Frafraha, the CSIR Animal Research Institute, where we are looking at cattle and small ruminants and other things, and poultry. So we are prepared. We have already moved the step. The minister has responded. So we encourage all Ghanaians, businesses, the commercial production companies, small-scale individuals, they should come, whether for the agriculture-based crops, whether for the fish, whether for the animal, or even for the livelihood snail, bee, mushroom, grass cutter. We have the expertise and we are open to support this nation.
Oh, you can do better. Put your hands together for all our partners. This is the National Agribusiness Dialogue, and we're on the theme Resetting Agribusiness for Inclusion and Sustainable Industrial Growth. We're also live on Join News Television. And now, to deliver the keynote speech and launch the National Agribusiness Dialogue 2025, we are happy to welcome His Excellency the President of the Republic, John Dramani Mahama, to bring us his keynote speech. Please put your hands together for him.
Thank you. Kindly take your seats. Thank you. Thanks, Ben. And thank you for inviting me to be part of this dialogue. It's an invitation I very easily accepted because agric and agribusiness is my passion. I just want to indicate that the Eastern Corridor that you mentioned and are excited about is a very important part of Ghana's road network. And it had been neglected for many years, even though the bulk of Ghana's food production is from that corridor, from the northeastern region, northern region into OT and northern Volta. A lot of food comes down that corridor. But it had been neglected for a long time, and so it was Professor Mills who actually came up with a vision of engineering the Eastern Corridor in order to create a smooth flow of agricultural products from north to south. We started working on it. It's supposed to stretch from Tema Runabout all the way to Kulungungu in the Upper East region on our border with Burkina Faso. Most parts of it have been engineered from Gushegu all the way down to Otidamanko, and then from Nkwanta all the way down to Jasikai. There are a few gaps, and those gaps are between Otidamanko and Nkwanta. There are 2 lots there that were abandoned during the It Is Possible years. And so, so I'm happy to inform you that they've been included in the big push. And as I speak, procurement is ongoing to get the contractors back to site to finish that segment. The segment between Tema Runabout and Asuchari is ongoing. There's a contractor on it. It's supposed to go over a new bridge at a place called Volivo. I signed the MOU when I visited Japan as president, but the project stalled. And I happen to be going to Japan again in August. And so that's one of the projects I'm carrying under my armpit to go and ask the Japanese Prime Minister to give to us. Once those segments are done, then it means that it opens up the road and it will make it easier for food products to be transported down. But I'm very happy to be here this morning to join you in this important dialogue. And I want to congratulate the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry and your partners, Agri-Impact and all of you for organizing this. I believe that we will come here every year, not just to dialogue, but also to measure the progress we have made. So next year when we come here, we're going to find out what progress have we made in terms of implementing the things that we agreed to do. And so on that note, proceeding on established protocol to save time, I welcome you to this National Agribusiness Dialogue with profound honor and a deep sense of purpose. This forum represents far more than just a routine stakeholder engagement. It is a vital turning point in our shared journey to transform Ghana's economy through the strategic development of the agribusiness sector. We gather here today not just to share ideas, but to affirm our national resolve to move Ghana decisively from an agrarian economy to an industrial, value-driven and export-oriented one. This dialogue is therefore both timely and indispensable as we reset the foundation of our economy for inclusive and sustainable growth.
Our commitment to agribusiness is evident in the recent realignment of the Ministry of Trade and Industry to become the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry. This was not just a cosmetic change. It was a deliberate policy shift intended to place agribusiness at the heart of our industrial transformation. The inclusion of agribusiness is a strategic reorientation that focuses on value addition and value chain integration, which can radically alter Ghana's economic trajectory. The global agribusiness market, valued at between 3.4 and 3.5 trillion US dollars in 2024, is projected to reach 4.4 trillion to 5.8 trillion US dollars by 2033. And Ghana must be a part of this business. This represents an enormous opportunity for developing nations like Ghana. We have arable land, we have abundant water, and a resilient, youthful workforce. These ingredients position us uniquely to claim a competitive share of the global agribusiness value chain. The theme of today's dialogue, Resetting Agribusiness for Inclusive and Sustainable Industrial Growth, is timely and very relevant. It calls for a bold rethinking of how we cultivate, how we process, how we distribute and export our agricultural products. Many industries remain uncompetitive, struggling to sustain capacity utilization above 30 to 40%. This cannot continue. To reverse this trend, we must significantly improve the supply of quality raw materials by deliberately and systematically developing sustainable local value chains. This is indispensable to achieving full-scale implementation of our 24-hour economy initiative. Our agribusiness strategy must therefore be integrated with industrial policy, logistics and export development in mind if we are to realize our full national potential. I'm pleased to note that despite inheriting a distressed economy, we have stabilized the macroeconomic environment through prudent and frugal management. This has laid a solid foundation for us to invest in the real economy, particularly in the sphere of agribusiness, where inclusive growth, job creation, and rural development can be achieved at scale. My passion for agribusiness development is rooted in the legacy of Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's first president. He envisioned creating agro-industrial zones around the Volta Basin, where agricultural raw materials will be processed both for domestic use and also for export. We must pick up from where he left off with courage and clarity. It is in this spirit that my government is implementing key programs such as the Feed the Industries Initiative, Rapid Industrialization Initiative, and Accelerated Exports Development Program. These initiatives, led by the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, form the foundation of the 24-hour economy policy and are designed to unlock massive potentials across multiple sectors. To ensure the success of our agribusiness strategy, we must ensure the continuous availability of raw materials throughout the year. We are therefore transitioning from single-season agriculture to year-round planting and harvesting, powered by irrigation. Ghana has approximately 227,000 hectares of land that is engineered for irrigation. As I speak, we began constructing new irrigation projects, but also rehabilitating existing ones. This will enable us to produce agricultural raw materials throughout the year to feed our agro industry. And this will also help us with climate adaptability. I have a personal experience. I have a farm in my mother's village. The land was given to me by my uncle. It's about 4,000 hectares, but I've been able to clear only about 600 acres so far. And there's still more to do. It's not easy. And so I put the 600 acres under cultivation, and this is my third season. This will be my third season. The first season was okay. The second season, you remember the dry spell? After we planted, the crops were growing beautifully. I mean, the farm was so beautiful. Then rain said it won't fall again. For 10 weeks, not a single drop of rain. Luckily, we had this sprinkler irrigation, and so we deployed it quickly, but it could cover only up to 60% of the farm. So we lost 40% of the produce. So I vowed that rain-fed agriculture, me, I won't do again. So this year I haven't planted, but the good news is that I have agricultural engineers who are putting a pivot irrigation system in place. And so in September, I will start planting in September. And as I harvest, I'm planting. As I harvest, I'm planting. As I harvest, I'm planting. And I produce yellow maize and soybean. And my off-taker is Asuchari Poultry Farm. They take everything and then they give me my cash. I'm also pleased to report that under the Big Push infrastructure program, the Minister of Finance has given the go-ahead for the acquisition of over 600 pieces of agricultural machinery and equipment for the setup of 11 out of the 50 farmers service centers to be located in farming zones around the country. These tractors and equipment will not be sold to farmers as we did in the past. They will be stationed at strategic farmer service centers to provide mechanization support to farmers. And so farmers will have to register with the center within their catchment area. And when it's the farming season, if you want mechanization services, you go and they will provide the services to you. What farmers really need is not to own tractors and combine harvesters. What they need is a service of tractors and combine harvesters. And so let the specialized agencies in the private sector who know how to maintain these machines, keep and maintain them, and provide the service to the farmers. The government is also going to give preference to products manufactured in Ghana. And so as I speak, the 24-hour Plus Secretariat is compiling a comprehensive list of products that are manufactured in Ghana, including agro-processed products. And because government is the biggest spender in the economy, those products will be given priority in case of any procurement by any government agency. Before, it's only when they cannot find a product that is manufactured in Ghana that they will be permitted to buy a foreign product. This should give a good market to agri-business industries. The Feed the Industry program is central to agribusiness vision. It seeks to transform agro-processing industries into sustainable engines of economic growth by securing consistent, high-quality supply chains. Its implementation rests on 4 critical pillars. One is the commercial farmer development and value chain integration, empowering commercial farmers with access to land, finance, technical support, and the linkages to smallholders throughout the grower scheme. The second is post-harvest loss solution centers and processing infrastructure, establishing industrial hubs with aggregation, storage, and processing facilities across key agricultural zones. The third is industrial linkages and market development. This will strengthen formal partnerships between farmers and processors, backed by structured contract farming and real-time market intelligence. And the fourth will be program management and institutional development that will establish a dedicated program implementation unit within the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry with robust monitoring frameworks. We aim to increase industrial capacity utilization from 30 to 40% averagely that it is today to 7 to 80% in targeted factories through these interventions. And this is not merely aspirational, it is achievable. And I hope that when we meet next year, we'll be able to indicate some businesses that we have scaled up to 70 to 80%. The government is adopting a 2-pronged strategy to support this vision by enhancing machinery availability for agro-industrialization. I just talked about that. In the short term, import duties on agro-processing machinery will be waived to lower costs. This will help to lower costs and incentivize investment in local processing. This will enhance access to technology, it will improve efficiency and stimulate private sector participation. We will retool Ghana's domestic machinery manufacturing sector in the medium to long term, and this involves strengthening the local fabrication of agro-processing machinery through the Gratis Foundation. For those of you who have not gone to Gratis, they do very fantastic things there. You know, corn shellers, all kinds of agricultural, agribusiness equipment. And it's supported by the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, and the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry. We intend through this to reduce import dependency, to create skilled jobs, and deepen our industrial base. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is deeply gratifying to note that the ministry is also spearheading the development of a national agribusiness policy. This comprehensive framework will guide policy, investment, and implementation across the agribusiness ecosystem. The policy will focus not just on value addition, but also on high-quality raw material production, processing standards, export competitiveness, and supply chain resilience. It will ensure that Ghanaian agribusinesses are positioned to compete globally while creating decent and sustainable jobs locally for our people. So today's forum is an essential step in this process. It must generate inclusive perspectives, foster broad-based consensus building, and identify potential policy bottlenecks. But most importantly, it must create a shared ownership amongst all of us on what the way forward is. As we engage in these crucial deliberations, I urge each of us to recognize the vast opportunities that agribusiness offer, not just for the economy, but also for our national identity and our future. Agribusiness is where tradition meets innovation, where farming becomes industry and local potential meets global markets. Let us approach this dialogue with technical insight and the collective will to transform. Let us commit to inclusive growth that leaves no farmer, processor, trader, or youth entrepreneur behind. Together we can reset Ghana's economy. Together we can create decent jobs. We can expand our exports. We can strengthen our food systems and ensure our nation's growth is sustainable and equitable. The National Agribusiness Dialogue is a declaration of intent, but now let us make it a springboard for enduring progress. Let's move from talking to implementation. And I hope that by next year we would have made substantial progress. And so I thank you all for coming, and I declare the National Agribusiness Dialogue duly open.
Let's rise with a round of applause for His Excellency the President John Dramani Mahama as he officially launches the National Agribusiness Dialogue. Please put your hands together. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So the National Agribusiness Dialogue 2025 is duly launched. Hip, hip, hip. Hip, hip, hip. Let's not ask what agribusiness can do. Let's ask what we can do for agribusiness. Wonderful. Usually, if the president gives you 2 anecdotes, it means he is very connected and excited to be around. Let's put our hands together one more time for him. And hopefully by next year, those crops will grow and there'll be many more off-takers than just that one off-taker of his crops. We'd like to announce one more time that we have a very important exhibition taking place in the next room. Almost 30 exhibitors displaying their wares. When we finish here, the president will just visit them before he goes away. The rest of us will be divided into 5 thematic groups. So we'll take the national anthem. The president will leave us. Then your thematic area leads will lead you to your specific halls for the breakout sessions. These are very important. So I'd like to ask my thematic area heads to be on standby. As soon as His Excellency leaves us, please come to the stage. I will mention your area. Your people will follow you to your room. So let's thank all of you for coming, acknowledging the presence of other ministers and members of parliament and government agencies, financial institutions, development partners, our private sector groups, our farmer-based organizations, and our CSOs. Thank you all for being part of the opening of the National Agribusiness Dialogue. Let's respectfully rise for the national anthem so the President will leave us. Standing as His Excellency leaves us, accompanied by the Minister for Trade, Minister for Health, Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture, other deputy ministers, and of course key organizers, Mr. Daniel Fahini Akwe. And while he leaves us, I'd like to invite our 5 thematic area heads. Please come up stage so that your breakout members will follow you to your halls. We have an hour and a half to work. So Mr. Kwesi Krobo, Dr. Boateng, Mr. Abraham Safo, and Richard Anson. Policeman, come down for me. So let me just make the announcement. Thank you, sir. So for the policy regulations, and you are going to Palm Jumeirah for your discussion on policy regulation and institutional coordination. You can grab your snack on your way. Thank you very much, Dr. Boateng. You can go now. Good. The next one is Youth, Women, Innovation, Tech and Digital Transformation. Your lead is Joseph Boateng. Where's Mr. Boateng? And the room is called Siam. Siam, where is that? Siam. Okay. It sounds like a place in East Asia. So come forward. Siam. Siamese twins. That's where the word came from. Siam. Yes. So where are the youth, women, and technology? Panel members include Madam Esther Ofori-Buedu, Mami Nyamiche Norte, forgive me, Professor Ewusi Mensah, Moses Malagan, and Juliana Asante Date. Juliana Asante Date, Esther Ofori-Buedu, Mami Nyamiche Norte, Siam. So panel members and those interested in agri-tech, digital transformation. Is it clear? Efua Prempe, forgive me. I don't can open your phone. So the place you're meeting is on the phone, but the phone is locked. And your group is ESG. So if you are for ESG, please follow this man. He will find the room and then he will open the phone. So ESG people, look, find this man, follow this man. Richard, thank you. If you are Prempe and Alistair Jimati, ESG. If you don't know where you are supposed to be, you can pick any of the 5. Otherwise, you remain in this room for the finance. Charlie, your thing close. Which room is the ESG meeting? No, ESG.
Thank you.